May December is a movie that mocks the art of acting. It's a movie about a TV actress named Elizabeth who comes to stay with her family so she can study them, especially the mother Gracie, who she will be playing in an upcoming movie. Now, Elizabeth is on the rise in the industry. She's trying to get into bigger movies, so she turns to method acting for this particular role. A form of acting where the easy way to describe it is that the actor tries to get as close as possible to the actual character so that they can embody them in every single way, both mentally and physically. So why is Gracie interesting enough to be played in a movie, you might be asking? Well, because her relationship with her current husband, Joe, started when he was in 7th grade, when he was 13 and she was 36. See, Gracie is a registered sex offender who got caught with Joe in the stockroom of a pet store that he was working in during the summer after 7th grade. She was then arrested and sent to jail, where she discovered that she was pregnant with Joe's child. And that's who Elizabeth has come to try to understand so that she can play properly in this movie. The only problem is everyone in this movie is acting. Gracie is pretending that everything is fine and that the past doesn't hurt, but she cries in the middle of the night for seemingly no reason. And she's constantly frustrated at how her professional life is practically non-existent, apart from a few people who have tried to keep her busy by buying cakes from her, even though they might end up in the dumpster. We can also tell that there is a bit of unsatisfaction in her by the way that she snaps at Joe from time to time. Joe is also pretending that he's fine with everything that happened and that he's fine with the way his life turned out, but the presence of Elizabeth, who is now day after day learning how to mirror Gracie, and a woman called Michaela from his Facebook group for rearing butterflies, definitely shows that he wants something more, something different. And we get to understand later that he and Gracie never actually talked about the crime that was their relationship and the trauma that he and maybe even they still hold inside. Joe and Gracie are both pretending to be the perfect family around Elizabeth, especially around Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, our protagonist, our main character, is pretending to care. She's pretending to care about these people and their problems so that she can get close to them, or at least claim that she's done her due diligence as an actress and on the way to giving her a great performance. Maybe she wins an award, maybe she gets recognition, and all for pretending. And for that reason, my favorite scene in this movie, and maybe the most important or the most striking scene in this movie, is the scene in the dressing room where Elizabeth is full on imitating Gracie at this point in the movie after just being with the family for about a week or so. Her movements, her posture, her laugh. And I think Gracie seems to notice this because she looks at Elizabeth with a bit of interest. And I noticed that it seems to be around this point in the movie where Gracie starts to close up a bit. She starts to fabricate herself as well, as one would get self-conscious when they notice that other people are imitating them. And in this scene is where there are so many questions that need to be answered, and Gracie essentially answers them in the most cliche way possible. When Elizabeth asks why she married her ex-husband Tom, she says that he was nice and he was young. And when Elizabeth assumes that a relationship with him must have been isolating, she simply agrees, not giving us any more depth to her reasons, but still giving us enough that we would believe it, even if it is a bit cliche, because the truth is she could have had multiple reasons for stepping out on him. This is my favorite scene because we can see how Elizabeth has now become actress pretending to be a person who is pretending, which is actually leading her and us nowhere. Also in this scene, it's blink and you miss it, but there is something about the composition that also confirms something that we might not have been able to confirm otherwise. Look at this shot for a couple of seconds. Why are there two Gracies in it? Why a reflection for this particular scene? I think it's because it confirms that Gracie is becoming duplicitous. That's why she's two. In the review written by the New York Times, they say that this scene shows us how there are three Gracies in this room, with Elizabeth being the third. The entire point of the composition is to draw emphasis to Gracie's form and how many times we are seeing it being repeated in the scene. But I think what they left out is that there is only one Gracie in this scene, really. The other two are merely reflections. And the cherry on top happens when Gracie's daughter Mary walks in with a dress that she likes. Gracie obliviously praises her for being bold enough to challenge and defy modern beauty standards. And then of course, now self-conscious about the fact that the dress is showing her arms, Mary starts a pretense of her own where she says that she'll find another dress, indicating that she doesn't like this one anymore because it's too similar to someone else's. My second favorite scene, of course, is the final scene of this movie. Everything about the final scene of May December is a process of exposing what the director Todd Haynes is expressing about the process of pretending that is acting, which is that doesn't matter how much method you do, doesn't matter how long you spend with someone, it will never be the same or accurate. As in this scene, Elizabeth realizes that though she has spent so much time trying to copy and embody Gracie's character, from copying her movements to imitating her relationship with her husband, her private relationship with her husband, when she is told that a core piece of the information about Gracie that she has learned is a piece of information gifted to Elizabeth by Georgie, a son that Gracie had with her first husband Tom, the idea that Gracie was assaulted by her brothers when she was very young, and that must have caused some childhood trauma. The thing that Elizabeth decided was the final thing she needed. She finally had the piece that allowed her to understand this character fully, a very cliched piece, but hey, she bit it. And so when she realizes that it was a lie, or that it could have been, she starts to question everything. She begins to understand that as much as she has tried to copy Gracie's movements and understand her soul, she can never really be Gracie. And that look of doubt carries itself over to the actual process of shooting the movie, where she has to recreate a real moment, but with the added pressure of having people scream, lights, camera, action, retake, which is not how real scenes happen. And that's part of the problem. The entire thing, the entire act of acting, of cinema, is a fabrication. It's a lie, even if it does have some deep truths beneath it that YouTubers and video essays like myself can pick apart and pull out for the rest of the audience. But really, it got me thinking. We praise Cillian Murphy and Daniel Day-Lewis for their portrayals of Oppenheimer and Lincoln, or Charlize Theron in Monster, but really they only gave us a version real enough that we can accept as a product, but far enough from the truth that we can only really describe as fake.
See